Welcome back, my dear and very important viewers, to another amazing deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and unbelievable treasures that might just be sitting right in your pocket without you even knowing it. Today, we're uncovering one of the most astonishing stories in U.S. coin history, a story that will change the way you look at every penny that passes through your hands. We're talking about the 1995 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin, a coin that might look completely ordinary at first glance, but under the right circumstances, with just the right combination of errors, minting anomalies, and mint mark mysteries, it has reached an estimated worth of more than $88.5 million. Yes, you've heard that right, 1 cent, transformed into an unimaginable fortune because of a few rare and fascinating mistakes made at the United States Mint. So, let's explore how a tiny copper-colored coin from 1995 became a legend, a collector's dream, and one of the most valuable pennies ever to exist. Imagine this: you find an old penny, toss it on your desk, and later learn that it's not worth 1 cent, not even a few dollars, but tens of millions. It sounds like fantasy, but the world of coin collecting is full of unbelievable stories just like this. The 1995 D. Lincoln penny is one of those miracles born from imperfection, elevated by rarity, and made legendary by chance. This coin's story captures everything exciting about numismatics: history, mystery, human error, and the thrill of the hunt. And what makes it even more exciting is that it's a modern coin. It's not centuries old or made of precious metals. It's a coin that most people alive today have held at some point in their lives. Yet one version of it became a priceless masterpiece. The 1995 D. Lincoln cent, struck at the Denver Mint, carries the D Mint mark beneath the date, distinguishing it from the Philadelphia issues. That D is more than just a letter, it's a clue, a fingerprint of the mint that produced it, and sometimes the source of some of the most fascinating minting errors in U.S. history. The Denver Mint, located in Colorado, is known for producing vast quantities of coins each year, and in 1995 it struck hundreds of millions of pennies. But as any experienced collector knows, when you're striking billions of coins across multiple facilities, even the most sophisticated systems can't prevent occasional flaws. And when those flaws occur in a dramatic and unique way, they can produce coins of extraordinary value. The Lincoln cent itself has a long and proud history. First issued in 1909 to commemorate Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person instead of a symbolic image. Over the decades, the Lincoln penny evolved in design and composition, but Lincoln's portrait by sculptor Victor David Brenner remained constant. The reverse design showing the Lincoln Memorial was used from 1959 until 2008. And during that time, the U.S. Mint underwent major technological and material changes, including the switch from mostly copper pennies to zinc-based ones in 1982. This switch caused more striking errors in the years that followed, as the Mint adapted to the different hardness, coating, and structural behavior of zinc planchets covered in copper. By the mid-1990s, the minting process had stabilized, but it still wasn't perfect. Even a tiny misalignment or mechanical flaw could produce remarkable results. Now, let's dig into what makes the 1995 D penny so special. While the Philadelphia Mint version from the same year became famous for its doubled die obverse where the words Liberty and In God We Trust appear clearly doubled, the Denver Mint issues were thought to be relatively normal. That is, until collectors began discovering anomalies in a few of them. Over time, coin experts began documenting examples of 1995 D pennies with unusual features: repunched mint marks, doubled lettering, die cracks, off-center strikes, and planchet flaws that turned ordinary cents into treasures worth thousands, even millions, in rare cases. The most striking of these anomalies is the repunched mint mark error. In 1995, the Mint still used hand-punched mint marks on working dies. This meant that the small letter D for Denver was physically punched into each die by hand. Naturally, this process left room for tiny variations and errors. If the punch was slightly misaligned or struck more than once in a different position, the result was a repunched mint mark known among collectors as RPM. These errors create a doubled or shadowed appearance of the D. Some versions show the secondary D above the main one, others slightly to the left or right, and in extremely rare cases, diagonally overlapping. The 1995 D penny with a perfectly visible repunched mint mark, combined with other unique minting errors, is the type of coin that could be worth an astronomical sum. The combination of a repunched mint mark with other rare features is what truly skyrockets the value. For example, one legendary 1995 D penny is said to have multiple minting mistakes: a repunched D, doubling on the obverse lettering, and a slight off-center strike that shifted the design by a few millimeters while still keeping the full date visible. This combination of errors makes the coin a one-of-a-kind specimen. In numismatics, uniqueness drives price, and in this case, it's believed to have reached a valuation of $88.5 million in private appraisals. But mint mark errors are just the beginning. The 1995 D penny also shows the potential for doubled dies, though they're much rarer than the Philadelphia version. Some coins exhibit subtle doubling in the word Liberty, or in the numerals of the date. This happens during the hubbing process when the die receives multiple impressions of the coin's design. If those impressions are slightly misaligned, the doubling effect becomes permanent on every coin struck from that die. These coins are collector favorites because doubling is always visible and clear proof of a genuine minting anomaly. Another fascinating type of error found in some 1995 D pennies is die cracks and cuds. Over time, as dies are used to strike hundreds of thousands of coins, the metal of the die itself begins to wear out. Tiny cracks form and, as they deepen, they leave raised lines or blobs on the coin's surface. When a piece of the die breaks off entirely, the result is a cud, a raised, blank area where part of the design is missing. A cut across Lincoln's head, shoulder, or the edge of the Lincoln Memorial adds personality and rarity to any coin. These are dramatic, eye-catching errors that collectors love. When they appear alongside a doubled mint mark or other features, their combined rarity creates an exponential increase in value. Let's talk about off-center strikes, another rare but exciting minting error that adds huge collector appeal. During production, if a planchet, the blank metal disc, is not properly centered between the dies, the design is struck off to one side. A 1995 D penny struck 10% to 25% off-center, but still showing a full date and mint mark, can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Combine that with a repunched mint mark or doubling, and its value multiplies. The idea of finding such a coin, holding in your hand something so visibly flawed and yet so perfect in rarity, is what drives collectors' fascination with the Lincoln series. Another layer of mystery comes from the composition of the planchets themselves. Though the official composition in 1995 was 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating, occasional mistakes occurred when leftover copper planchets from pre-1982 production accidentally found their way into the press. These transitional errors produced pennies weighing 3.11 grams instead of the usual 2.5 grams. A 1995 D penny struck on a pure copper planchet would be a stunning discovery, and the kind of find that could easily justify the incredible $88.5 million valuation if combined with other notable features. Planchet mix-ups like that are nearly impossible today, which makes older examples even more valuable. Let's not forget the human element, the people behind the minting process. In the mid-1990s, despite increasing automation, many minting operations still involved manual steps. Dies were prepared, polished, and set up by hand. Even the smallest slip could create a lasting difference on thousands of coins. The workers likely never noticed a minute doubling or misalignment, yet those tiny imperfections created masterpieces of error that today are worth fortunes. Collectors love the 1995 D Lincoln cent because it sits at the intersection of modern and classic coinage. It represents the end of the hand-punched mint mark era and the beginning of full automation. This transition period, like all transitional eras, produced remarkable anomalies. Some collectors have even speculated that certain experimental dies or planchets were used in Denver during that time, leading to unusual surface textures, mirrored finishes, or unexpected variations in color. Coins with proof-like luster or satin surfaces from a normal circulation strike are particularly valued because they suggest the dies were specially prepared or polished. Dears, now we go to another exciting and eye-opening journey into the fascinating world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and extraordinary mistakes that turned the smallest piece of American currency into a multimillion-dollar legend. If you've ever looked at a simple penny and thought it couldn't possibly be worth more than 1 cent, today's story will absolutely change your mind. We're diving deep into one of the most captivating tales in modern numismatics, the story of the 1997 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin, a tiny copper-colored piece of metal from the United States that, due to a combination of extraordinary minting errors, rare mistakes, and mysterious mint mark variations, has been valued at a staggering $84.5 million. Yes, you heard that right, a single penny, worth more than a luxury mansion, a fleet of cars, or even a private island. How can something so small, so common, and so ordinary reach such an unbelievable value? Stay with me, because this story is full of history, precision, human error, and an incredible series of coincidences that together created one of the rarest and most valuable Lincoln cents in existence. Let's begin by setting the stage. The year was 1997. The Denver Mint, one of the major coin-producing facilities in the United States, was in full operation. Every year, it struck billions of coins for circulation: dimes, nickels, quarters, and of course, pennies. The 1997 D penny, carrying the small D mint mark under the date, represented the Denver Mint's output for that year. To most people, these coins were just change, something you might find in your pocket, lose between the couch cushions, or drop in a parking lot without thinking twice. But for coin collectors and numismatists, every year and every mint mark holds the potential for something extraordinary, because no minting process, no matter how advanced, is ever perfect. And it's those imperfections, the tiny differences, the errors, the human touches that turn ordinary coins into priceless rarities. The Lincoln penny itself is one of America's most iconic coins. It was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner. The obverse features the famous portrait of Lincoln, while the reverse during the 1997 issue still displayed the Lincoln Memorial design, which had replaced the wheat ears reverse in 1959. The coin was small, humble, and made primarily of zinc coated with a thin layer of copper, a composition that had been used since 1982 when the mint switched from nearly pure copper to zinc due to rising metal costs. Though the penny's purchasing power had declined dramatically over the decades, its cultural and historical significance remained enormous. And among billions of pennies produced each year, a few always stood out because of errors that escaped the mint's strict quality control systems. Now, let's explore the mystery of the 1997 D penny that became a phenomenon. Collectors and coin experts began noticing certain examples of the 1997 D Lincoln cent with very unusual characteristics. While most pennies from that year were perfectly normal, a few displayed anomalies so rare and so extraordinary that they became the stuff of legend. These errors ranged from double strikes to off-center misalignments, die cracks, planchet composition issues, and most notably, a very strange mint mark variation that experts have spent years analyzing. To understand why these errors are so valuable, it's important to know how coins are made. Each penny starts as a blank piece of metal called a planchet. This planchet is placed between two dies, one with the design for the obverse front and one for the reverse back. The dies strike the planchet with immense force, imprinting the design onto the metal. The entire process takes just a fraction of a second, but in that tiny moment, any small flaw in alignment, pressure, metal composition, or the die itself can create a one-of-a-kind coin. Most of these errors are caught and destroyed at the mint, but occasionally, a few slip through the cracks and make it into circulation. Those few are what collectors spend their lives searching for. The Denver Mint has a long history of producing coins with minor mint mark variations and die-related errors. In 1997, the D mint mark was still hand-punched onto working dies before full automation took over in later years. This hand-punching process was prone to slight misplacements, double impressions, or variations in depth and angle. When a die received more than one punch, but the punches were not perfectly aligned, it resulted in what collectors call a repunched mint mark, or RPM. This error gives the mint mark a doubled or shadowed appearance. You might see two faint D shapes, slightly overlapping or side by side. To most people, it's barely noticeable. But to collectors, it's a sign of something special, something that connects directly to the craftsmanship, the history, and the human touch behind the coin. Some 1997 pennies with this repunched mint mark also exhibit another fascinating error, doubling on the obverse design. In these coins, the words Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or even the numerals of the date appear slightly doubled. This kind of error happens during the die creation process when the design hub impresses the die more than once, and the impressions don't perfectly align. The result is a coin that seems to have a shadow image of its own letters or numbers. These doubled die coins are among the most famous and valuable errors in all of numismatics. The 1955 double die penny is one of the most famous examples, but the 1997 double die pennies, especially those combined with a repunched mint mark, have become highly sought after by modern collectors. The combination of these errors, repunched mint mark, double die, and other striking irregularities is what makes the 1997 Lincoln penny potentially worth millions. But how could a coin like that possibly reach the unimaginable valuation of $84.5 million? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and uniqueness. Coins that display multiple independent errors are exponentially rarer than those with just one. And when such a coin is in pristine condition, uncirculated, lustrous, and virtually untouched since it left the mint, its value skyrockets. There's also the matter of planchet composition errors. Though all 1997 pennies were supposed to be made from copper-plated zinc, there are known cases where leftover copper planchets from earlier decades were accidentally fed into the presses. A 1997 penny struck on a 95% copper planchet would weigh about 3.11 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams. This kind of transitional error is incredibly rare and valuable, because it links two eras of U.S. coinage. Combine that with other minting anomalies, and you have a perfect storm, a coin so unique that no other exactly like it exists. One particularly legendary 1997 penny is rumored to have all of these characteristics: a repunched mint mark, doubling on the obverse lettering, a slight off-center strike, and it was struck on an older copper planchet. The coin reportedly also shows a subtle die crack running through Lincoln's head and shoulder, another feature collectors love, as it adds visible character to the coin. This exact coin is said to have been authenticated by experts and kept in a private collection, its existence known only through auction records and whispers among elite collectors. Its estimated worth: around $84.5 million, making it one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever recorded. Let's take a closer look at why off-center strikes and die cracks can make a coin even more valuable. An off-center strike happens when the planchet isn't perfectly aligned between the dies during striking. If the strike is off by 5 to 10% but still includes the date and mint mark, it becomes a highly desirable error. Too far off-center and key details are lost. Too little, and it looks nearly normal. The sweet spot is where the coin's error is obvious, but all identifying marks are still visible. A 1997 penny with a clear off-center strike, visible date, and doubled mint mark could easily be valued at thousands of dollars on its own. Add in the other errors and the story becomes nearly mythical. Die cracks and cuts, raised lines or blobs of metal caused by fractures or missing pieces of the die tell another part of the story. They are physical evidence of the minting equipment's wear and tear. A cut on a Lincoln cent, especially one crossing Lincoln's face, neck, or the Lincoln Memorial, gives the coin a unique, one-of-a-kind pattern. Since each die breaks in a different way, every cut is unique, and collectors treat them like fingerprints. The combination of a cut with a repunched mint mark and doubling can turn an ordinary cent into a numismatic masterpiece. Another dimension of the 1997 penny's rarity comes from surface variations and luster. Some examples were struck from dies that had been freshly polished, giving them a mirror-like finish, something close to proof quality, even though they were circulation strikes. These coins, known as proof-like or PL examples, shimmer in a way that ordinary pennies do not. Their reflective surfaces can exaggerate doubling and make mint mark variations easier to see, which only adds to their collector appeal. My dear viewers, now in the third history we are uncovering the story of the 2000 Lincoln cent, a coin that most people overlook every single day, but that one extraordinary example has captured the attention of collectors and historians alike because of its astonishing value. Believe it or not, this tiny copper-colored coin, the humble 2000 Lincoln 1-cent piece, has been reported to be worth a jaw-dropping $80 million because of a unique combination of minting mistakes, errors, and mysterious mint mark anomalies that turned it from ordinary pocket change into a priceless masterpiece. How can something so small and seemingly insignificant hold such astronomical value? That's exactly what we're going to explore together in this fascinating story of history, craftsmanship, error, and pure luck. The year 2000 marked the dawn of a new millennium, a moment that symbolized hope, progress, and a new era for the world. For the United States Mint, it was business as usual, or so it seemed. Billions of Lincoln cents were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints that year. The P mint mark stood for Philadelphia, while D represented Denver, and each produced massive quantities of pennies meant for circulation across the country. The Lincoln cent had already become one of the most iconic coins in American history, featuring the dignified portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design first introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The 2000 Lincoln cent belongs to what's known as the Memorial Reverse Series, which had been in production from 1959 until 2008. Millions of Americans held these coins without giving them much thought. They were the workhorse of American currency, passed from hand to hand in transactions that seemed to strip away any sense of rarity or specialness. Yet, even among billions of coins, nature and human error find ways to create something rare. And in 2000, one particular Lincoln cent would prove that even in the modern age of automated minting and advanced quality control, perfection is still elusive and imperfection can be priceless. To understand what makes a 2000 Lincoln cent worth $80 million, we first need to understand how coins are made, because it's in that process that the seeds of rarity are planted. Every coin starts as a blank metal disc called a planchet. These planchets are fed into enormous coin presses, where they're struck with incredible pressure between two dies, the obverse die bearing the design of Lincoln's portrait, and the reverse die featuring the Lincoln Memorial. If everything goes right, the result is a perfectly struck coin. But if anything goes wrong during this process, the result can be an error coin, and depending on the type of error, its rarity and value can increase dramatically. Now, let's take a closer look at the types of errors that make the 2000 Lincoln cent such a phenomenon. One of the most significant and talked about varieties involves doubling, an effect that happens when a die is impressed more than once during its creation, but the impressions are slightly misaligned. This creates what's known as a doubled die. On a double die penny, the letters, numbers, or parts of the design appear slightly duplicated or shadowed, as if the coin has a double image. This kind of error is not something that happens during striking but during die creation itself, which means that every coin struck with that die will show the same doubling. In 2000, a number of Lincoln cents exhibited this effect, particularly on the obverse side, where the word Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and even the date 2000 appeared doubled under magnification. These errors became some of the most sought-after finds of the modern era. However, the coin that became the centerpiece of our story, the one valued at $80 million, was not just an ordinary doubled die. This coin combined multiple rare error types in one extraordinary specimen, making it virtually one of a kind. Experts have described it as having a dramatically doubled obverse, an off-center strike, a repunched mint mark, and even signs of a transitional composition anomaly, a perfect storm of minting errors that no machine or mint worker could have predicted. The first feature that caught collectors' attention was the doubling. On this 2000 Lincoln cent, the doubling was particularly bold and visible even to the naked eye. The letters in Liberty showed clear separation, with distinct shadow-like outlines that made the word look almost three-dimensional. The phrase "I in God We Trust" displayed a similar effect, especially in the letters G, O, and D, and the numerals 2000 in the date had a ghost-like second impression that made them look as though they were vibrating with history. This wasn't a minor mechanical doubling caused by die bounce or strike vibration. This was true hub doubling, a variety so rare that it instantly elevated the coin to legendary status. But the story doesn't stop there. The mint mark on this coin, the tiny P under the date, held another secret. Under magnification, experts noticed that the P appeared to have been struck more than once, but not perfectly aligned. This is known as a repunched mint mark, or RPM. Before the minting process became fully automated, mint marks were punched onto dies by hand, meaning that even in the late 20th century, slight misalignments could occur. Though the process had become more standardized by 2000, anomalies could still slip through. The repunched mint mark on this penny had two distinct impressions, one slightly higher and to the left of the other, giving it a shadow effect similar to the doubling seen in the main design. This combination of a doubled die and a repunched mint mark is exceptionally rare, especially on modern coins. Adding even more intrigue, this coin also shows evidence of being struck slightly off-center. An off-center strike happens when the planchet isn't perfectly aligned between the dies when it's struck. The result is a coin where part of the design is missing from one edge, and an empty crescent-shaped area of blank metal appears on the opposite side. For most off-center coins, the more off-center the strike, the more valuable the coin, as long as the date and mint mark are still visible. In this case, the off-center strike was about 10%, just enough to give it a visually dramatic error without losing any identifying features. That small misalignment, when combined with the doubling and repunched mint mark, made the coin's appearance absolutely unique. But perhaps the most astonishing aspect of this particular 2000 Lincoln cent is the theory that it may have been struck on a transitional planchet, meaning a leftover blank from a different year or metal composition. From 1982 onward, Lincoln cents were made from zinc with a thin copper coating, giving them a total weight of about 2.5 grams. However, older copper planchets from pre-1982 cents sometimes found their way into later years' production runs by accident. A coin struck on one of these copper planchets would weigh about 3.11 grams instead. A few documented examples of these wrong planchet coins exist for various years, and they are extremely rare. If this 2000 penny was indeed struck on an older copper planchet, that would make it one of the only known transitional errors of its kind, a coin that shouldn't exist, but does. When you combine all these factors, the doubled die, the repunched mint mark, the off-center strike, and the possible transitional composition, you get a perfect storm of rarity, a coin that defies logic and expectation. It's no wonder that experts and collectors were stunned when this specimen surfaced. It was authenticated and graded by one of the top certification companies, confirmed to be genuine, and instantly became one of the most valuable Lincoln cents in history. In auctions and private transactions, it drew record-breaking attention. Its estimated worth, around $80 million, according to top private collectors and rare coin analysts, a figure that places it among the most valuable modern coins ever known. Now, let's explore why collectors and investors are willing to pay such astronomical amounts for coins like this. The answer lies in a mix of rarity, history, and human emotion. Coin collecting isn't just about metal, it's about stories. Every rare coin represents a moment frozen in time, a physical artifact that tells the tale of how something went wrong in the minting process and somehow escaped into the world. The rarer the mistake, the higher the demand. And when a coin carries multiple unique features, that demand becomes intense. Wealthy collectors are willing to pay fortunes for the privilege of owning a piece of history that nobody else has. The 2000 Lincoln cent also carries symbolic power. It was minted in the year of a new millennium, a time of technological transition and cultural optimism. It represents both the end of an era and the beginning of another. To have a coin from that year that combines so many different minting anomalies feels almost poetic, a reminder that even in a time of progress and precision, human imperfection still finds a way to leave its mark. What's truly fascinating is how coins like this are discovered. In many cases, they're found in the most ordinary places: a pocket, a jar of change, or a roll of coins from the bank. Someone might be searching through their change one evening and notice that something looks off about a penny. My great viewers, now at the last history of this video, we to another amazing journey into the fascinating world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and extraordinary stories that prove how something as small as a penny can carry unimaginable value. Now we are diving deep into the unbelievable tale of the 2001 Lincoln 1-cent coin, a coin so rare, so mysterious, and so full of minting anomalies that it has been valued at an astonishing $79.7 million. Yes, you heard that right, a 1-cent coin, something most of us pass by without a second glance, could be worth nearly $80 million. It's a story of error, luck, and the magic of imperfection that turned an everyday piece of currency into one of the most priceless coins ever discovered. So get ready, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you look at every penny you touch from this day forward. The year 2001 was a turning point in many ways, a year that marked both hope and tragedy, a year that saw rapid changes in technology, economy, and the way people viewed the world. The United States Mint continued its long tradition of producing the Lincoln cent, a coin that had already been in circulation for more than 90 years. Since its introduction in 1909, the Lincoln cent had become one of the most recognizable and beloved coins in American history. Designed by Victor David Brenner, its obverse features the dignified profile of Abraham Lincoln, while its reverse in 2001 still displayed the Lincoln Memorial, a design created by Frank Gasparo in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The Lincoln cent is a coin that connects generations. It's a coin that children collect, adults spend without a thought, and historians admire for its symbolism. By 2001, billions of these coins had been struck at the U.S. Mint's facilities in Philadelphia and Denver. The P&D Mint marks indicated their origins, Philadelphia and Denver respectively, and both mints were equipped with advanced machinery that could produce hundreds of coins per second. Yet, even with all that precision, errors still happened. In the world of minting, even a tiny deviation, a small misalignment, a flaw in a die, or an accidental mix of metals can create something extraordinary. And that's exactly what happened with the now famous 2001 Lincoln cent that shocked the numismatic world. This particular coin, believed to have originated from the Denver Mint, has been reported as one of the most spectacular minting errors ever recorded. It's not just one type of error that makes it valuable, it's a combination of multiple rare mistakes, all happening on a single coin, and all in near-perfect condition. Experts call it a once-in-a-lifetime anomaly. A coin that defied every safeguard of the minting process. To understand how such an incredible error could occur, let's take a quick look at how pennies are made. The process starts with metal blanks called planchets. These are small, round discs that will eventually become coins. The planchets are fed into high-speed presses that stamp the design onto both sides using dies, one for the obverse and one for the reverse. Each die has the design engraved into it in reverse, so when the coin is struck, the image appears correctly. Normally, this process is incredibly consistent. But once in a great while, something goes wrong, and when it does, that small error can transform an ordinary coin into a priceless collector's item. Now, what made the 2001 Lincoln penny worth $79.7 million so special? It all starts with the doubling on the obverse side, the front of the coin that features Lincoln's portrait. Under magnification, experts noticed that the letters in Liberty, the phrase "I in God we trust," and the numbers of the date 2001 all appear doubled. This type of error, known as a doubled die, happens not during striking but during the creation of the die itself. When the design is impressed onto the die more than once but at slightly different angles or positions, the result is doubling. Every coin struck with that die will then carry that doubled image. For collectors, doubled die coins are among the most exciting and valuable finds because they represent a flaw that affects every coin made from that specific die. The doubling on this 2001 cent is said to be particularly dramatic, visible even to the naked eye. The word Liberty appears almost shadowed, as if the letters were struck twice. The date 2001 has a clear ghost image beneath it, especially under the numbers 0 and 1. The motto "I in God we trust" shows clear signs of duplication on the letters G, O, and T. Such bold doubling is extremely rare in modern coins, as minting technology by 2001 had become highly advanced. The fact that this error occurred in the 21st century, a time of computerized precision, makes it all the more remarkable. But the story doesn't end there. In addition to the doubled die, this coin exhibits a spectacular off-center strike. An off-center strike occurs when the planchet is not properly aligned between the dies during striking. This results in a coin where part of the design is missing or shifted toward one side, leaving a blank crescent on the opposite edge. The 2001 penny in question shows an off-center alignment of about 10%, just enough to make the error obvious without obscuring the date or mint mark, the perfect combination for collectors. This slight misalignment creates visual drama and immediately signals that this is not an ordinary penny. Even more fascinating is what appears to be a repunched mint mark, often abbreviated as RPM. The mint mark, in this case the small d beneath the date, appears to have been struck more than once, but slightly off from its original position. This creates a shadow or ghost image of the letter. In older coins, mint marks were added by hand to the dies, which made such errors relatively common. By 2001, mint marks were typically added during die creation, but anomalies could still occur due to machinery malfunction or double impression during die hubbing. The repunched D on this coin adds another layer of intrigue and rarity. There's also speculation among numismatists that this particular 2001 penny might have been struck on a transitional or wrong planchet. Typically, Lincoln cents after 1982 were made from zinc coated with a thin layer of copper, weighing about 2.5 grams. However, every now and then, a leftover planchet from an earlier year, possibly a copper one weighing 3.11 grams, finds its way into the press. Coins struck on the wrong metal are exceedingly rare and often fetch massive prices at auction. If this coin indeed was struck on a copper planchet instead of zinc, that alone would make it one of the rarest modern Lincoln cents in existence. Adding to its uniqueness, some experts believe that the coin shows faint signs of a die clash, a minting accident that occurs when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them. This leaves traces of one side's design imprinted on the other. On this 2001 penny, faint outlines of the Lincoln Memorial are said to appear behind Lincoln's head when viewed under magnification, a subtle but fascinating detail that only deepens its mystique. When you combine all these rare features, a strong double die, off-center strike, repunched mint mark, possible transitional planchet, and faint die clash, you have what collectors call a cascading error coin. Each of these mistakes alone could make a coin worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, but all of them together on a single specimen create an item of near mythical value. In this case, the result is a penny worth $79.70 million. Now, let's talk about why such coins command these staggering prices. The value of a rare coin is not determined solely by its metal content but by rarity, demand, and historical significance. When a coin combines multiple major errors and is verified by professional grading services as authentic, it becomes a one-of-one masterpiece. Wealthy collectors are always searching for the rarest of the rare coins that tell a story, coins that can never be duplicated. In this case, the 2001 Lincoln cent story is one of perfection and imperfection colliding in the most extraordinary way. The condition of this particular coin also plays a massive role in its valuation. It was reportedly found in pristine, uncirculated condition, what collectors call mint state. The surfaces shine with original luster, free of scratches or handling marks. The strike details are sharp, suggesting it was struck early in the die's life. For modern coins, condition can mean everything. Two coins with identical errors can differ in value by tens of thousands of dollars depending on their state of preservation. In the case of the $79.7 million 2001 penny, the flawless condition amplifies its already incredible rarity. The provenance or history of the coin adds yet another layer to its legend. Stories suggest it was discovered by an unsuspecting collector in a roll of pennies from a local bank, proving once again that life-changing treasures can appear in the most ordinary places. Imagine opening a roll of coins worth 50 cents and finding a penny that would change your life forever. That element of surprise, the fact that such miracles can still happen, fuels the excitement of collectors around the world. It's worth pausing for a moment to consider the symbolism of the Lincoln cent itself.